In the shadow of the pyramids, a forgotten world of ritual and desire thrived. A world where the lines between gods and mortals, life and death, were dangerously blurred. We see intimate carvings on a dusty temple wall, figures intertwined in poses both sacred and shocking. What if the secrets to their civilization's power were not written in stone, but whispered in the royal bedchamber? We are in ancient Egypt, a civilization spanning over 3,000 years along the banks of the Nile River. This is the land of pharaohs, monumental tombs, and complex gods. But beyond the golden hieroglyphs lies a deeply human story about their relationship with life's most powerful force: sexuality. For the ancient Egyptians, sex was not a taboo subject hidden behind closed doors. It was a vital, creative energy woven into the fabric of their religion, society, and their very understanding of the universe. Exploring their practices is not about shock. It's about understanding a worldview profoundly different from our own. Our journey begins in the early dynastic period, around 3100 BCE from the start. Egyptian culture linked sexuality directly to creation. The creator god Atum was said to have brought the universe into being through an act of masturbation. For this belief established a powerful precedent. Sexuality was a divine, life-giving force. A visual animation depicting the cosmos swirling from a central point of light, stylized to look like papyrus art. By the Old Kingdom, around 2500 BCE, we see these ideas reflected in their rulers. Pharaohs were not just kings. They were seen as living gods, whose virility was directly tied to the prosperity of the land. Some art from this period even depicted pharaohs with erect penises, not as crude humor, but as a symbol of their power to ensure life and abundance. Old Kingdom, c. 268-621-81 BC. As we move into the New Kingdom, around 1550 BCE, beliefs around divine conception became more elaborate. Pharaohs like Hatshepsut and Amenhotep III claimed that the god Amen had visited their mothers to conceive them. This made their rule not just a matter of inheritance, but of divine destiny. Visual, temple relief of a god visiting a queen, with animated lines showing the flow of divine essence. During this time, we also find the earliest documented evidence of contraception and abortion. Medical texts like the Ebers Papyrus and the Kahun Papyrus describe various methods for preventing pregnancy. These included pessaries made from honey, acacia leaves, and even crocodile dung. 479, the late period, after 664 BCE, saw increased interaction with other cultures, like the Greeks. The Greek historian Herodotus visited Egypt and wrote about practices he found shocking. He described festivals where women were expected to offer themselves to strangers at temples, a practice sometimes referred to as sacred prostitution. Herodotus, Histories, c. 440 BC. Finally, during the Ptolemaic period, which ended with Cleopatra in 30 BC, sibling marriage within the royal family was a prominent and propagandized practice. This was justified by mirroring the unions of gods like Osiris and Isis to keep the royal bloodline pure and divine. Those visual timeline scrubbed with chapter dots for each major period. Much of what we know comes from a few key sources. The most explicit is the Turin Erotic Papyrus, dating to around 1150 BC. Document. Papyrus scroll. This document shows a man and woman in numerous, sometimes acrobatic, sexual positions. 3 scholars debate its purpose. Some see it as satire mocking the upper class, while others view it as straightforward pornography. Medical texts provide another window into their world. Document. Medical papyrus. The Ebers Papyrus from 1550 BCE and the Kahun Papyrus from 1850 BCE detail methods for birth control and abortion. 7, for example, the Kahun Papyrus describes a contraceptive pessary made of acacia gum, which modern science has confirmed has spermicidal quality. Tomb art offers more subtle clues. Source: tomb paintings. The joint tomb of Niankhkhnum and Khnumhotep, to high-ranking officials from the 5th dynasty, depicts them in an intimate embrace. Nose-to-nose pose usually reserved for married couples. 213, this has led many Egyptologists to suggest they were a same-sex couple, which would be the earliest known example in history. 14. However, written accounts from outsiders, like Herodotus, must be viewed with caution. Source: historical text. He reported that, to prevent sexual abuse of the dead, the bodies of beautiful and high-ranking women were left to decay for several days before being sent to him. 1516, while this suggests necrophilia was a known problem, Herodotus was also prone to sensation. The evidence we have is fragmented and often open to interpretation. Take the tomb of Niankhkhnum. While many scholars see it as proof of an accepted homosexual relationship, others disagree. 613, they argue the two men could have been brothers, or even conjoined twins, and the intimate poses simply represented their close bond. 30M. The topic of
homosexuality in general is murky. There are no known ancient Egyptian words for homosexual or heterosexual. 17. Some texts, like the Book of the Dead, contain confessions where the deceased denies having lain with other men, suggesting it may have been viewed negatively. 13. Yet, mythological stories like the one between the gods Horus and Seth involve homosexual encounters, though often framed as a struggle for dominance. Similarly, concept of sacred prostitution reported by Herodotus is highly debated. 10. While festival sex connected to goddesses did occur, there is little native Egyptian evidence to support the idea of a widespread transactional system within temples before the Roman period. 18. This could be a misinterpretation or exaggeration by a foreign observer. Finally, while medical papyri list ingredients for contraception, we don't know how effective they truly were. A pessary of crocodile dung, for instance, may have worked as a physical barrier, but its practical application raises many questions. 7-9. The gaps in our knowledge are as significant as what has been preserved. For the average Egyptian, sexuality was a natural part of life, largely free from the guilt that would define later Western cultures. 6. Marriage was the social norm, but premarital sex carried no stigma, and children born outside of marriage were not shamed. To love poetry from the era reveals a deep appreciation for romance, desire, partnership that feels remarkably modern. However, freedom was not absolute, and societal rules were different for men and women. Adultery, especially by a woman, was a serious offense. This was tied to the importance of a clear bloodline, which passed through the mother. 12. While both parties could be punished, the consequences for women were often more severe. For royalty, the stakes were even higher. The practice of incestuous marriage, intended to preserve the divine bloodline, had severe genetic consequences. One king, Tutankhamun, the most famous product of such a union, suffered from a host of health issues, including a clubfoot and bone disease, which likely contributed to his early death. 19. Understanding ancient Egyptian sexuality is like looking at a blueprint for how society can integrate sex with spirituality. Instead of separating them, the Egyptians saw them as two sides of the same coin. Creation, their myths, rituals, and even their politics were built on this foundation of sexual energy as a divine force. Think of it like an electrical circuit. For them, the Pharaohs' virility was the power source that kept the lights on for the entire nation, ensuring the Nile would flood and the crops would grow. 5. This connection between a leader, body, and the nation, well-being, is a powerful political tool we see in different forms throughout history. Their approach to family planning also offers a fascinating insight. The existence of contraception and abortion methods over 3,500 years ago shows a sophisticated understanding of reproductive health. 7:20:21. It tells us that controlling family size and planning for the future is not a modern invention, but a deeply ancient human concern. So, what do we know? We know the Egyptians had a remarkably open and spiritual view of sex, linking it to their creation myths and the power of their pharaohs. We have evidence of everything from erotic art to ancient contraceptives. What we don't know is how widely some of the more extreme practices were accepted, and how much of what was recorded is myth versus reality. The final picture is one of a complex society that was both surprisingly liberal and bound by strict divine rules. New discoveries could still change our understanding. High confidence. Archaeologists will likely uncover more ostraka shards of pottery used for sketches and notes. These informal documents often depict daily life more candidly than official temple art and could reveal more about common sexual practices. Medium confidence. Advanced DNA analysis of more royal mummies could confirm the extent of incestuous relationships and their impact on the health of the ruling class. This could give us a clearer picture of the human cost of their divine marriage customs. Low confidence. The discovery of a new, well-preserved papyrus detailing social laws around sexuality is unlikely, but not impossible. Such a find would be the equivalent of the Rosetta Stone for understanding their private lives, potentially filling in many of the gaps in our knowledge. The world of ancient Egypt reminds us that our modern views on sexuality are not universal or timeless. They were a people who embraced a fundamental aspect of human existence, with a unique blend of practicality, spirituality, and divine reverence. If you found this exploration of ancient customs fascinating, you might enjoy our next video. Lost Tombs: The Hunt for Cleopatra's Final Resting Place. This script is based on interpretations of archaeological findings, historical texts, and academic research. The study of ancient sexuality is an evolving field, and many conclusions are subject to scholarly debate. Our sources include translations of ancient papyri, analysis of tomb art, and accounts from historical figures like Herodotus. We strive for a neutral presentation of the available evidence.